Warcraft Invitational Tournament. I'm your host, Jason McCaw, and of course, I have next to me the famed commentator, Azael. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the tournament. You know, I've been able to have the opportunity to come down here and kind of hang out all day. We've been doing everything from seeing you guys set up to seeing the 6th set to watching some of the players doing war games and stuff. And it's kind of just, you know, getting me more and more hyped for the games tonight.
Yeah. I mean, how about this set, right?
It's sick,
I mean,
man.
I got to say, I am really impressed with it.
Yeah, it is really nice. You know, we got to see some of the early sketches a long time ago, but seeing it in person is very different. And it's like when you look at this set compared to all the other kind of like caster desk type situations that I've been in and everything, it's putting everything else to shame. So it's really, really nice, and the PvP Live guys have done a great job.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's obviously great to hear. We have a bunch of questions to cover tonight. Starting out, you know, as a commentator, how difficult do you feel it is for the more casual players and fans to kind of follow along with competitive World of Warcraft or esports in general, really?
I feel like as a casual player, you know, you really require someone who's able to kind of break down the game for you pretty well, because it's like if you just tune in and you're watching and there's no sound, it's very hard to keep track of everything going on. You know, I've had tons of friends and kind of like family and blah, blah, blah say they tune in and they're like, well, really all I do is kind of watch the green bars and, you know, see who goes to zero first. So I think that as a commentator, it's your job to kind of engage the audience, to try to explain what's going on, explain not only what just happened, but why it was impressive, why that was so hard for them to do, you know, and to kind of give your thought process on, okay, I think this is what they're going to try to do. This is what the other team has to do to stop that. And then when that kind of comes to fruition, that's when players are like, wow, you know, he said they were going to do that. And they were able to pull it off. That was a really good job, and that's why they won. So when players are able to kind of see not only what had to happen, but you know why it has to happen, and then it comes to happen. I think it's kind of a cool little thing.
Right. Yeah. It's easier for the average viewer to kind of follow along with esports, because when you have commentators explaining everything, like you said, it's hard for the average person just to jump into and watch maybe a Twitch stream of a player play, and all they're paying attention to is health bars. So it's this kind of adds to that. You've been involved in WoW esports for a while now. Do you think the resurgence in the competitive tournament scene can be a good thing for World of Warcraft?
Yeah, of course. It can be nothing but a good thing. I mean, it's more tournaments means more reason for top players to play, means the game becomes more competitive, at that high level and stuff. And as not only a commentator but a player, it's just fun. Even if you're not participating in tournaments, and if you play at high levels on a ladder, and there's tournaments, that means people are going to be more interested in practicing and getting better, and they're going to be spending more time on the ladder, trying to like really kind of hone their skills, and that means there's more teams to play against, and it just kind of gets multiplicatively better, because as your opponents get better, you have to kind of get better with them. So it's just like you're constantly kind of pushing each other to a higher level. So I think it's nothing but good. There's no way it can really hurt the community. And I think that people really just have to kind of give this a chance and tune in and let kinks be worked out and everything like that, and see that this is different from what we've been given from like our kind of everyday run-of-the-mill online tournament. This isn't the same thing, and it's at a higher level of quality, and it's worth tuning in and watching and supporting. And people need to kind of realize that and get that out there, not only for themselves to tune in, but their friends. Hey, check this out. It's worth your time. It's not going to be one of those tournaments where we've seen kind of
two people just sitting behind a folding table.
Yeah,
or something
exactly,
like that. Yeah, absolutely. You seem to have made the choice, at least in more recent times, to take the role of a commentator instead of a competitor, right? So, I mean, what was your choice behind that? What was your decision?
Well, I like doing both. Honestly, for me, I've done so many tournaments over the years and everything that I feel like the only tournament I really care to still win is BlizzCon. I've won MLG, I've won double North American finals, I've won the IEM Global finals. I've done the online tournaments, I've done the rank ones, I've done all that stuff. And for me, the kind of like the last bastion, the big penultimate goal, whatever you want to say, is still kind of winning BlizzCon. And this year with the qualification system they didn't work out that we got to go because there wasn't regionals because of time constraints and so on and so forth.
Right.
But I just love being involved. So if I'm not going to be playing, I love to commentate. And in a lot of the online tournaments, I'm able to have the opportunity to both play and commentate, which is really cool as well, just because of how maybe it's off the cuff or whatever the tournaments are and stuff. So I still enjoy doing both, but I feel like as a commentator, I contribute more to a tournament than as a player. And I mean, that may sound funny, but it's just because you can have fantastic games, but if the commentators aren't really getting that across and aren't delivering it in a good way, then it doesn't really matter, because the fact of the matter is, if you have bad games and great casters, it's going to be more interesting than great games and terrible casting and stuff. Right. So I just feel like as a caster, I can kind of offer more to the community, and it's just a different side of things. And there's also the added benefits of it's not stressful. It's right. like you can't lose when you're commentating. Exactly. Like I get to the finals every time. Right. You can't. Yeah. You're not going to get knocked out, and it's just. You can show up, you can enjoy it, and you can always be involved.
Everyone wins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does this mean that you could possibly be making a reappearance in some World of Warcraft tournaments? I mean, is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, maybe it's like definitely not out of the question. Like I said, we were planning on competing in BlizzCon this year and stuff. Right. It just didn't come together. I played with Sidu and Mez. And there's definitely a possibility of playing in some of these other tournaments. But I'm happy to be here commentating. That's what I'm going to be doing for this time. So may as well focus on that.
Excellent, excellent. We've all seen some of the things coming in Warlords of Draenor, the new expansion, like the competitive war games and spectator mode. Yeah. Do you think these types of systems will contribute to bringing World of Warcraft Arena back into the spotlight? Yeah,
I think that it's definitely stuff that people have wanted for a really long time, and my hope is that people who have kind of stopped tuning in and given up on things like that is that they are going to give it a second chance, because with the introduction of the spectator client, it makes these online tourneys so much easier to run. Sure. It makes them so much more professional, even just from the kind of lower level tournaments and stuff, because you don't have to do that setup with the war games. You don't have to queue in for the 5v5s and constantly re-queuing it and creating these huge wait times and stuff. So that alone is a fantastic tool that we're going to have in Warlords of Draenor, and I think that you can see that Blizzard is kind of putting more focus on that. And shout out to Holinka. I think he's done a fantastic job, and really just the Blizzard team in recent months or the past year, whatever you want to say, has done a much better job of communicating back and forth with the players and kind of expressing what they're doing, why they're doing it, and it allows people to feel more involved and understand the process. And I think that's very important. Even if you don't get what you want, you can kind of, if you're being reasonable, understand why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that that's an important step, and I think that Warlords of Draenor is going to be a positive thing for WoW. Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot easier for tournament organizers basically to set up tournaments, so more people are going to hopefully start putting on World of Warcraft tournaments in this new expansion. I mean, I think that's what we're all hoping for.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even just as like kind of a grassroots community thing, it's like, if I want to host a tournament and anyone can play, and guess what? I'm going to be able to hop on, you queue people up and everything. You're going to have a spectator client, and it's just going to be so much easier, even just from an organizational standpoint. So, people just even having fun tournaments with their friends on a weekend. You want to have a tournament against your buddies. Well, you can do that now.
Right. Yep. You've mentioned multiple times that tournaments are the reason many of the elite arena players play. Do you think more tournaments and bigger prize pools can draw even more players, and maybe even older players that kind of dropped out, or older famous players dropped out? I mean, do you see that maybe more players are going to be coming back to it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that. For most of the kind of like long-term tournament players and stuff, competing on ladder is fine, but it's more they're playing online because they have fun with their friends, and that's kind of what it's about. As far as the competitive side, the ladder usually means a lot less to those guys because they've had the tournament success and stuff, and because they've competed at a higher level. So it's like when you go back down, it's not as interesting, it's not as compelling. So as you do have more tournaments, it can definitely have the potential to draw those guys back, or to just motivate this kind of like new crowd of PvPers to elevate their gameplay, and maybe they're just going to be too good for the kind of the old guard. Who knows? And that's something that's interesting as well. And it's all healthy. It doesn't really matter who it is, whether it's new stars coming up or it's the old stars coming back. And even if it's a mix of both, I think that's even more compelling, because it's it's kind of the really traditional, famous, big-time names that have been around since 2008 or so, versus some of these new guys that you're just hearing about that are people know of, like Peekaboo, for example. This is a guy that people know about, who's considered one of the best rogues, but hasn't really proven himself just yet. Watching him compete against a player like Van Ruki or Asoda, who has been around since like the first MLG, to me is very interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, two of the guys in this tournament that's coming up this weekend have only been playing Arena for 6 months. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, just that, they were Raiders before, but getting, into the game that early and just, playing for only 6 months and learning everything, It's crazy. You know, you won first place at IEM in 2010, right?
Yeah.
With Team EG, and competed on BlizzCon stage in 2011. As a player, what does it mean to not only win it, but to also win?
I mean, it's the goal for me. You know, we were kind of, our team has always kind of been known as guys who take the tournament super seriously. You know,
right.
Some people mean that as a negative thing, some people mean that as a positive thing. But I always saw it as, you know, if I didn't think I could win a tournament, I don't see the point in playing. And you know, for me, it was never about just entering a tournament and being like, oh, you know, we'll have some fun, you know, whatever, win or lose, I don't care. That's just not who I am. It's just not.
Right.
Like, I can't do things halfway. You know, it's full measures with me. Exactly. So it's like, you know, we're the team that gets on TR and we play 10 hours a day and we practice and we practice and we practice. And that is what is interesting for me, because it's like, I really do think hard work pays off. And for me, it's like the winning a tournament is the fruit, like everything kind of working out how it's supposed to in your head. You know what I mean? It's like you put in all this hard work and then you're supposed to get the payoff, and that's kind of how it feels. It feels so good when you're able to really work really hard for something and then it works out for you. You know, it's like, wow, that was really worth it, and it kind of shows you that hard work does pay off. And you know, whether it's a fitness goal or if it's, you know, school or it's gaming, or it doesn't really matter what it is, playing an instrument. Any time you work really hard for something and then you're able to accomplish that goal, it feels amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you almost have to treat it like a job. Yeah. Really. You know, we have seen many of the same names in these tournaments over the years, with only a handful of basically newcomers coming in from time to time. Do you think there's a bar that's been set that many of the newer players kind of find hard to reach?
I think there's a number of factors with that. I think in recent times it's becoming easier and easier for people to kind of break into the scene. In the past it was very much so players would kind of only play within their group, and now I think the groups are kind of expanding more as more of the old friends and stuff stop playing. People have to kind of search out and spread out and play with more new people, so that allows people a chance to kind of get known and get their names out there, because, you know, for a lot of players it's hard to even find those elite teammates. You know, maybe they feel like, you know, I'm at that level. But if you're not known, it can be very hard to find partners, you know, of that kind of quality. Whereas now I think it is easier for people to get into that. But it's like, for these players, you know, you have your Venrukis and your Sea-Doos and whatever. For guys like that, it's not going to be hard for them to ever find teammates. They're going to be able to play with cream of the crop,
whoever they want.
Whatever comp they want. They're going to be able to find the best players to play that with because of their reputation. For newer guys, you don't have that luxury sometimes, so you have to kind of build yourself up before you can find the proper team and the proper teammates. And I think that's what people have to do. And sometimes you have to kind of put in that time, and really, it can be frustrating for them, but you know, everyone has put in their time, and if you have to put in that time and prove yourself on the kind of lower levels before people are going to be willing to trust you at that tournament. Because I mean, you know, if you're a Venruki or a Sea-Doo and you're spending 10 hours a day preparing for a tournament or whatever, it doesn't matter who you are, it's very hard to justify taking a risk on someone who's never gone to a tournament before. You know, are they going to be able to perform under the pressure? You haven't had that experience with them, so it's hard to kind of give them your trust, I think. And that's one of the things that these guys have to kind of work their way through. Maybe they have to enter tournaments with some lesser teammates and kind of show that they can handle it before they can get into those really kind of like elite teams, I guess.
Kind of have to earn your keep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Azael, you're going to be with us all weekend. We cannot thank you more for commentating this tournament.